Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Thunderbolt and watched his world fall apart. The massive supercarrier stretched out before him like a small city made of metal and dreams. 2 kilometers of human engineering at its finest. His home for the past 15 years. "Captain, the Galactic Council representatives are here," said Commander Alex Rivera. His voice tight with barely controlled anger. Jake nodded without turning around. He had been expecting this day for weeks, ever since humanity joined the galactic community. The aliens had made it clear from the start that they did not trust humans. Too violent, they said. Too unpredictable. Too dangerous. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 alien figures walked in, each one representing a different species from the Galactic Council. The tall, thin Zentari moved with fluid grace, its silver skin catching the light. The bulky Kelvon stomped forward on thick legs, its 4 arms crossed over its chest. The third alien, a Nexari, floated a few inches off the ground, its tentacles swaying gently. Captain Morrison, the Zentari spoke in perfect English, its voice like music played through broken glass. "I am Prime Cathara of the Zentari Empire. We are here to oversee the decommission of this vessel." Jake finally turned to face them. His weathered face showed every one of his 53 years, but his eyes were still sharp and alert. "I understand your orders, Prime Cathara, but I want to go on record that this is a mistake." The Kelvon stepped forward, its voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Human ships are too powerful for a species so new to the galactic community. Your kind has a history of violence that concerns us all." "Violence?" Jake's voice rose slightly. "We've been peaceful members of the galactic community for 2 years now. We've followed every rule, every regulation." "Yes," the Nexari's voice whispered directly into their minds, "but your species' history speaks for itself. Wars upon your own planet, nuclear weapons, biological weapons. You nearly destroyed yourselves before you reached the stars." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew it was pointless. The decision had been made long before these 3 had set foot on his ship. The Galactic Council had voted, and humanity had no choice but to comply. They were still the newest members, still on probation. The USS Thunderbolt will be decommissioned. "Within 6 months," Prime Cathara continued, "all weapon systems will be removed. All military personnel will be reassigned. The ship itself will be converted to civilian use or scrapped, as you choose." The words hit Jake like physical blows. The Thunderbolt was more than just a ship to him. It was proof that humanity could build something magnificent, something that could protect Earth and its colonies. Without it, humanity would be defenseless. Against the dangers of deep space, what about pirates? Jake asked. The Kelvon Outer Rim is full of raiders and criminals. Our merchant ships need protection. The Galactic Council will provide security for human vessels, the Kelvon replied. For a reasonable fee, of course. Of course, Jake thought bitterly. The aliens would charge humanity for protection while making sure they could never protect themselves. It was the perfect setup. After the aliens left, Jake remained on the bridge, staring out at the stars. His crew worked quietly around him, but he could feel their anger and frustration. They had all volunteered for this mission, believing they were making history. Now they were being told that history was too dangerous for them to write. "Captain?" Dr. Lisa Grant stepped onto the bridge. She was a small woman with graying hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. As the ship's chief engineer, she had been with the Thunderbolt since its construction began. "What is it, Lisa?" "I've been thinking about the decommission order. There might be another way." Jake turned to look at her. Another way to what? To save the ship, to save what it represents. Lisa moved closer, lowering her voice. "What if we didn't fight the order? What if we went along with it, but found a way to make it work for us? I don't understand. Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. The Council wants us to convert the ship for civilian use. They want to remove all the weapons and military systems. But they never said we couldn't replace them with something else. Lisa, if you're suggesting we hide weapon systems, no, not hide them. Replace them. Transform them. Make them into something the Council would never suspect. Lisa's eyes gleamed with possibility. What if we turned the greatest warship in human history into something even better? Jake stared at her. You're talking about deception on a massive scale. I'm talking about survival. About making sure humanity has a future in this galaxy. Lisa stepped closer. The aliens think they know us. They think we're just violent primitives who got lucky with technology. But they don't understand what makes us human. And what's that? We adapt. We improvise. We find ways to turn disadvantages into advantages. They want to take away our sword, so we'll build a better one and make it look like a farming tool. Jake was quiet for a long moment thinking. Plan was crazy, dangerous, and probably impossible. It would require fooling some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. One mistake would mean the end of humanity's place in the galactic community. But what choice did they have? Accept defeat and hope the aliens would protect them forever? Trust species that had already shown they viewed humans as potential threats? What exactly are you proposing? Jake asked. Lisa's smile widened. We're going to turn the USS Thunderbolt into a mining and research vessel. At least, that's what the aliens will think. In reality, we're going to build something they've never seen before. Something that will make them regret underestimating humanity. Jake looked out at the stars again, but this time he saw possibility instead of defeat. How long do we have? 6 months to completely transform a supercarrier. It's impossible, which means it's exactly the kind of thing humans are good at. Jake nodded slowly. Then we better get started. As the two humans began planning the most audacious deception in galactic history, neither of them noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the bridge. Its sensors recorded everything, but its programming had been quietly modified weeks ago. Instead of reporting to ship security, it now reported to a very different authority. The real work was about to begin. 3 months into the conversion, the USS Thunderbolt looked nothing like the warship it had once been. Captain Jake Morrison walked through corridors that had been completely rebuilt, past rooms that now served entirely different purposes. Where once there had been weapons storage, now there were mining equipment bays. Where fighter pilots had once slept, civilian researchers now worked at computer terminals. To anyone watching, especially the aliens, it looked like humanity was following the Galactic Council's orders perfectly. Captain Morrison, a voice called out behind him. Jake turned to see HFY, the Zentari inspector assigned to monitor the conversion. The alien's silver skin seemed to glow in the ship's new lighting system. I must say, your species has been remarkably cooperative. We follow the rules. Jake replied, keeping his voice neutral. The Galactic Council's orders are clear. Indeed. HFY's large eyes studied the corridor around them. I confess, I am impressed by the speed of your conversion. Most species would take years to transform a military vessel of this size. Humans are good at fixing things, Jake said. It's what we do. What Jake didn't mention was that humans were also very good at hiding things. Behind every wall that HFY could see, there was another wall that he couldn't. Every system that appeared to be civilian had a military counterpart carefully concealed within it. The mining lasers that the inspector had examined so carefully were actually the most powerful energy weapons ever built by human hands. I would like to inspect the main reactor chamber, HFY said. My reports indicate some unusual energy readings. Jake's heart skipped a beat, but his face remained calm. Of course, Dr. Grant can show you around. She's been leading the reactor. Conversion. They found Dr. Lisa Grant in the engineering section, surrounded by holographic displays showing power flow throughout the ship. She looked up as they approached, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had been working 20-hour days for months. "Inspector Zex-Hi," she said with a tired smile. "What can I do for you? I would like to understand these energy readings. They seem unusually high for a civilian vessel." Lisa nodded. "That's because we're not using a standard civilian reactor. We've built something new." She gestured to the displays around them. "The Thunderbolt is going to be operating in deep space for months at a time. Standard reactors wouldn't provide enough power for all our mining and research equipment." "Show me," Zex-Hi said. Lisa led them deeper into the ship, past corridors filled with workers in civilian clothing. But Jake knew that most of these civilians were actually military personnel in disguise. Chief Engineer Ryan Walsh had organized the whole thing, creating fake identities and job assignments for hundreds of soldiers and pilots. They stopped at a massive chamber that hummed with barely contained energy. The reactor at its center was unlike anything in the known galaxy. It looked like a fusion reactor, but Jake knew it was actually something far more advanced. Human scientists had been working on it in secret for years, and now they finally had a chance to build it. "This is impressive," Zex-Hi admitted, studying the reactor with professional interest. "But why do you need so much power?" "Mining operations in deep space require enormous amounts of energy," Lisa explained. "Our new plasma drills can cut through asteroids the size of moons. Our refineries can process millions of tons of ore per day. And our research labs need power for experiments that have never been attempted before." All of this was true. The ship really would be capable of advanced mining and research. But what Lisa didn't mention was that the same systems could be used for very different purposes. The plasma drills could cut through enemy ships just as easily as asteroids. The refineries could produce military-grade materials. And the research labs were already working on weapons technology that would make the old USS Thunderbolt look like a toy. "And the hangar bays?" Zex-Hi asked as they continued their tour. "Converted to launch mining shuttles and research pods." Lisa said, "We can deploy dozens of small craft to work on different asteroids simultaneously." They entered one of the massive hangar bays, where Beth Turner was supervising the loading of equipment. She looked up from her tablet as they approached, her professional smile hiding the fact that she was actually coordinating the most complex military deception in human history. "Inspector," she said pleasantly, "are you here to see our new mining fleet?" The hangar was filled with small craft that looked exactly like civilian mining vessels. They had the right shape, the right color scheme, the right equipment visible on their hulls. But hidden inside each one was enough firepower to destroy a small city. "These are quite sophisticated for mining craft," Zex-Hi observed. "Deep space. Mining is dangerous work," Beth replied. "Asteroids can be unstable. Solar radiation can damage equipment. We need craft that can handle anything space throws at them." Jake watched the inspector examine the mining craft, his alien eyes missing the subtle signs that would have told him the truth. The reinforced hulls that were supposedly for asteroid impacts were actually armor plating. The radiation shielding was advanced stealth technology. The ore collection systems were weapons that could turn a small mining craft into a deadly fighter. "I am satisfied with your progress," Zex-Hi finally announced. "The Galactic Council will be pleased to know that humanity is following the decommission order properly." After the inspector left, Jake found himself alone with Lisa in the engineering section. Around them, the ship hummed with activity as hundreds of workers continued the conversion. "How much longer?" Jake asked. 2 more months, Lisa replied. "Maybe less if we push hard. And you're sure this will work?" Lisa was quiet for a moment, studying the displays that showed the ship's true capabilities. Jake, what we're building here is beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. We're not just converting a warship. We're creating something entirely new. And if we get caught, then humanity becomes a slave species for the rest of time. Lisa's voice was steady, but Jake could hear the weight of responsibility in it. But if we succeed, we change everything. The aliens think they know what humans are capable of. They're about to find out they were wrong. Jake nodded. Around them, the work continued. Soldiers pretended to be civilians. Weapons disguised themselves as tools. The greatest military deception in history moved forward one day at a time. In 3 months, the HMS Endeavour would launch on its first mission. The galaxy would see a converted mining vessel leaving Earth's solar system. What they wouldn't see was the most advanced warship ever built, carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire species. The aliens had wanted to take away humanity's sword. Instead, they had given humans the motivation to build something far more dangerous. And the best part was, they would never see it coming. The conversion was almost complete. Soon, it would be time to test whether human ingenuity could really fool the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Jake had a feeling they were about to find out. The HMS Endeavour moved slowly through the Kepler belt, its massive bulk dwarfing the asteroids around it. To anyone watching, it looked like exactly what it was supposed to be, a converted mining vessel going about its peaceful business. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the mining operations through the main view screen. Small craft moved between the asteroids, their mining beams cutting through rock and metal. It was a convincing performance, and it had been going on for 2 weeks now. Captain, Carl Davis called out from his station. As the ship's mining foreman, he was responsible for maintaining the illusion that they were actually here to collect ore. We've got a good haul from asteroid cluster 7. The refineries are processing nickel and iron at maximum capacity. Good work, Carl, Jake replied. The mining operation was real, of course. The ship needed to actually collect ore to maintain its cover story. But every ton of metal they processed was also being turned into materials that could be used for other purposes. Dr. Amy Parker looked up from her science station. Captain, I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures from the outer system. It looks like ship engines, but they're not following normal traffic patterns. Jake felt his stomach tighten. They had been expecting this day, but that didn't make it any less dangerous. How many ships? At least 20. Maybe more. They're moving fast and trying to stay hidden behind the larger asteroids. Pirates, Jake said quietly. The Kepler belt was known for its raider activity. Ships that looked valuable but defenseless were prime targets. And the HMS Endeavour, with its massive size and apparent lack of weapons, would look like the biggest prize in the galaxy. Should we call for help? Carl asked. The Galactic Council promised to protect human vessels. Jake almost smiled. The nearest council patrol is 3 days away. I don't think these pirates are going to wait that long. On the view screen, the first pirate ships began to emerge from behind the asteroids. They were a mix of different designs, cobbled together from salvaged parts and illegal modifications. But they were fast, and they were armed. This is Pirate Lord Vexter, a harsh voice crackled over the communication system. Human vessel, you are now under my control. Surrender immediately, and we might let some of you live. Jake looked around. The bridge. His crew was tense but ready. They had been training for this moment for months. Open a channel, he said. This is Captain Morrison of the HMS Endeavour. We're a civilian mining vessel. We don't want any trouble. Vexter's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. Civilian? You humans are all the same, weak and helpless. Prepare to be boarded. The pirate ships began to move closer, their weapons charging. Jake could see at least 15 different vessels, all of them designed for one thing, taking what they wanted from anyone too weak to stop them. "Carl, shut down the mining operations," Jake ordered. "Amy, recall all our small craft. Make it look like we're preparing to surrender." "Yes, sir," both officers replied. The mining craft began returning to the ship, their crews apparently panicking at the sight of the pirate fleet. The HM's Endeavor's engines slowed, and it began to drift like a helpless whale surrounded by sharks. "Smart. Humans," Vexter's voice came over the comm again. "Now drop your shields and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction." Jake waited until the pirate ships were close enough. Most of them were within a few kilometers now, their weapons trained on the apparently defenseless human vessel. It was exactly where he wanted them. "Amy," he said quietly, "begin the reveal." Dr. Parker's fingers flew over her console. "All stations, this is not a drill. Project Rebirth is now active." The HM's Endeavor began to change. The first thing that happened was subtle. The ship's hull began to shift and reconfigure, panels sliding away to reveal hidden weapon ports. The mining equipment that had been visible on the surface folded back into the ship, replaced by systems that looked nothing like civilian technology. "What the hell?" Vexter's voice had lost its confident tone, but that was just the beginning. The ship's massive mining bays suddenly opened, but instead of ore processing equipment, they revealed squadrons of fighter craft. These weren't the small mining shuttles that had been operating in the asteroid belt. These were military fighters, sleek and deadly, with weapons that could turn a pirate ship into scrap metal in seconds. "Impossible," Vexter whispered. "The mining." Lasers that had been cutting through asteroids all morning suddenly swiveled toward the pirate fleet. But they weren't mining lasers anymore. They were the most powerful energy weapons ever built by human hands, capable of punching through any known shield or armor. "This is Captain Morrison," Jake said, his voice now carrying the authority of a military commander. "You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Here's your answer." The first pirate ship to fire found its weapons completely ineffective against the HMS Endeavor shields. The energy blasts that should have crippled a civilian vessel were absorbed without even causing a flicker in the ship's power systems. The HMS Endeavor's response was swift and devastating. The mining lasers fired once, and 3 pirate ships simply vanished in balls of superheated plasma. The fighter squadrons launched from the hidden bays, moving with precision and speed that made the pirate craft look like they were standing still. "Retreat!" Vexter screamed over the comm. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The human fighters had surrounded the pirate fleet, and the HMS Endeavor's weapons were tracking every target. What had seemed like an easy raid had become a slaughter. Jake watched the battle unfold on his screens. The pirates were brave. He had to give them that. They fought hard, using every trick they knew. But they were fighting technology that was decades ahead of anything they had ever seen. "Captain," Amy reported, "we're detecting a transmission from the pirate flagship. It's on an open channel. Let me hear it." Vexter's voice was filled with panic and disbelief. "This is impossible. It's a mining ship. How can it have this kind of firepower?" "Because," Jake said, opening a channel to the entire pirate fleet, "you made the same mistake everyone else makes. You underestimated humans. The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. Most of the pirate ships had been destroyed, and the few survivors were fleeing into deep space." But Jake knew that the real impact of this fight was just beginning. "Amy, did any of them get away?" "3 ships escaped, Captain. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Jake nodded. That was exactly what he had hoped for. The survivors would spread the word about what they had seen. A human mining vessel that had destroyed an entire pirate fleet. A civilian ship that had revealed itself to be the most powerful warship anyone had ever encountered. "What are your orders, Captain?" Carl asked. Jake looked at the debris field where the pirate ships had been. Soon, the galaxy would know that. Humanity had not been disarmed. It would know that the species everyone thought was weak and helpless had built something incredible. "Resume mining operations," Jake said, "and prepare for visitors. I have a feeling the Galactic Council is going to want to have a very long conversation with us." The HM's Endeavor slowly returned to its mining configuration, its weapons disappearing, back into hidden compartments. To anyone arriving later, it would look like a normal civilian vessel going about its business. But Jake knew that the illusion was over. Humanity had shown its hand, and now the real game was about to begin. The Galactic Council fleet arrived 2 days later, and it was bigger than anything Jake Morrison had ever seen. Dozens of ships from different species, all bristling with weapons and advanced technology. They formed a perfect sphere around the HM's Endeavor, making it clear that this was not a friendly visit. "Captain," Dr. Amy Parker called out from her station, "we're being hailed by the flagship. It's Prime Cathara herself." Jake straightened his uniform. He had been expecting this conversation, but that didn't make it any less important. Everything humanity had worked for could depend on the next few hours. On screen, he said, the bridge's main view screen flickered to life, showing the interior of a Zentari command ship. Prime Cathara stood at the center, her silver skin gleaming under the alien lighting. Behind her, Jake could see representatives from the Kelvon Federation and the Nexari Collective, the most powerful species in the galaxy, all here to deal with one human ship. "Captain Morrison," Prime Cathara's voice was like ice, "you have some explaining to do." "Prime Cathara," Jake replied, keeping his voice respectful but firm. "What can I do for you?" "You can start by explaining how a civilian mining vessel destroyed an entire pirate fleet." Jake glanced at Dr. Lisa Grant, who was standing at the engineering station. She gave him a small nod of encouragement. "We defended ourselves," Jake said. "The pirates attacked us. We had no choice." "Defended yourselves?" The Kelvon representative stepped forward, its forearms crossed over its massive chest. "Our sensors detected energy weapons more powerful than anything in our fleets. That is not defensive equipment." "Actually," Dr. Grant stepped forward. "It is? May I explain?" Prime Cathara's eyes narrowed. "You may try." Lisa activated a holographic display that showed the HMS Endeavor's current configuration. "What you're seeing is a deep space mining and research vessel, exactly as we reported. Every system on this ship serves a civilian purpose." "Then explain the weapons." The Nexari representative's voice whispered directly into their minds. "Those aren't weapons," Lisa said calmly. "They're mining lasers, designed to cut through asteroids and planetary surfaces. The fact that they can also be used for defense is simply a side benefit. Mining lasers that can destroy military-grade ships?" Prime Cathara's voice was full of disbelief. "Deep space mining requires incredibly powerful tools," Lisa explained. "We're not talking about surface mining on inhabited worlds. We're talking about breaking apart objects the size of moons, processing materials in the vacuum of space, dealing with cosmic radiation and gravitational anomalies. The equipment has to be robust." Jake watched the alien faces on the screen. They were clearly skeptical, but Lisa's explanation had a certain logic to it. Humans had always been known for building tools that could serve multiple purposes. "And the fighter craft?" the Kelvon demanded. "Mining shuttles," Lisa replied without hesitation, "designed to operate in dangerous environments. They need to be fast, maneuverable, and well protected. The fact that they proved effective against pirates is unfortunate, but not surprising." "Dr. Grant," Prime Cathara said, "you are asking us to believe that humanity has built the most powerful civilian vessel in galactic history, purely by accident. Not by accident, Lisa corrected. By necessity. Humans are planning to expand into regions of space that other species consider too dangerous or unprofitable. We need equipment that can handle those challenges. Jake could see the council representatives exchanging glances. They were clearly frustrated, but they were also beginning to realize that they might have underestimated human capabilities. "We demand to inspect your vessel," Prime Cathara declared. "Every compartment, every system, every piece of equipment." "Of course," Jake replied. "We have nothing to hide." What followed was the most intensive inspection in galactic history. Teams of alien experts went through every inch of the HMS Endeavour, scanning, testing, and analyzing everything they could find. Jake and his crew cooperated fully, showing the inspectors around as if they were proud tourists. The aliens found exactly what they expected to find: a mining and research vessel with incredibly advanced equipment. The mining lasers were exactly what Lisa had claimed they were. The fighter craft were indeed designed for dangerous mining operations. The massive reactor was needed to power all the civilian systems. But what the aliens didn't understand was that human engineering was different from their own. Every system on the ship was modular and adaptable. A mining laser could become a weapon with the flip of a switch. A research laboratory could become a weapons factory with a few hours of reconfiguration. A civilian reactor could power military systems just as easily as mining equipment. The humans had built a ship that was both exactly what it appeared to be and completely different from what it appeared to be. It was civilian and military, peaceful and deadly, honest and deceptive, all at the same time. "I am impressed," Prime Cathara finally admitted after 3 days of inspection. "Your species has achieved something remarkable." "Thank you," Jake replied. "However," the Centauri continued, "the Galactic Council is concerned about the implications of your technology. If humans can build civilian vessels with this kind of capability, what else might you be working on?" Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. This was the moment they had been preparing for. "Prime Cathara, humanity has no desire to threaten anyone. We simply want to explore and develop regions of space that others have abandoned. Our technology is designed for survival, not conquest." And yet, the Kelvon representative interjected, "You have demonstrated that human civilian vessels are more powerful than our military ones." "That's not our fault," Jake replied. "We offered to share our technology with the Council when we first joined the galactic community. You refused, saying that human engineering was too primitive to be useful." The aliens were quiet for a long moment. Jake could see them struggling with the implications of what they had discovered. Humanity had been dismissed as a primitive species, but they had built something that challenged the technological superiority of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "What are your intentions?" Prime Cathara finally asked. "To continue our mission," Jake replied. "To mine resources, conduct research, and explore new regions of space. To be good members of the galactic community. And if other species feel threatened by your capabilities," Jake smiled, "then perhaps they should reconsider their assumptions about primitive humans." The Council fleet departed the next day, leaving the HMS Endeavour alone in the asteroid belt. Jake stood on the bridge, watching the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. "Do you think they bought it?" Lisa asked. "They bought what they wanted to buy," Jake replied. "They saw a mining ship because that's what we told them it was. But they also saw that humanity is not as helpless as they thought. And now?" Jake looked out at the stars, thinking about the future. "Now we continue the mission. We mine our resources, conduct our research, and wait to see what the galaxy does next." What Jake didn't say was that the HMS Endeavour was not alone. Hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae throughout human space, other converted vessels were already at work. Each one appeared to be a civilian ship, but each one carried the same hidden capabilities as the Endeavor. Humanity had not just built one incredible ship. They had built an entire fleet, and the galaxy was about to discover that underestimating humans was a very dangerous mistake. 6 months after the inspection, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of the HMS Endeavor's capabilities had spread far beyond the Galactic Council chambers. Every species was talking about the humans and their incredible ship. Some were impressed, others were terrified, and a few were making plans. President Maria Rodriguez stood in the Oval Office on Earth, looking out at the stars through the reinforced windows. Behind her, General Kevin Scott was briefing her on the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The Zentari Empire has split into 2 factions, General Scott reported. The moderates want to form an alliance with us. The hardliners are calling for preemptive strikes against human colonies. And the Kelvon Federation? They're building new ships as fast as they can. Our intelligence suggests they're trying to match our capabilities through brute force. Maria nodded. She had been expecting this kind of reaction. When you showed the galaxy that everything they thought they knew was wrong, there were bound to be consequences. What about our fleet status? 7 more vessels have completed conversion. The HMS Darwin, the HMS Newton, the HMS Curie, and 4 others. Each one is operating under civilian cover, but they're all ready for military action. If needed, Maria smiled. The converted ships were spread throughout human space, each one appearing to be exactly what it claimed to be. Mining vessels, research ships, cargo haulers, even a few passenger liners. But together, they represented the most advanced fleet in galactic history. Any word from Captain Morrison? The Endeavor is still in the Kepler belt. They've actually become quite successful at mining operations. Their cover story is holding perfectly. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the HMS Endeavor continued its work. Captain Jake Morrison had settled into a routine that was both completely normal and utterly extraordinary. During the day, they mined asteroids and processed ore. At night, they conducted research that was pushing the boundaries of known science. Captain, Dr. Amy Parker called out from her station. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's President Rodriguez. Jake straightened his uniform. Put it through to my ready room. A few minutes later, Jake was sitting across from a holographic projection of the President of Earth. She looked tired but determined, the weight of an entire species on her shoulders. Captain Morrison, she began, I need to know if you're ready. Ready for what, Madam President? War. The Zentari hardliners are moving ships toward our border. The Kelvon Federation is making threats. And there are rumors that some of the smaller species are forming an alliance against us. Jake leaned back in his chair. What are our orders? Continue your current mission, but be prepared to defend human space if necessary. And Jake, the galaxy is about to learn that underestimating humans was the biggest mistake they ever made. The president's image flickered out, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He had known this day would come, the moment they revealed the HMS Endeavors. True capabilities, they had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Some species would accept that change. Others would fight it. 3 days later, the test came. Captain, Dr. Parker's voice was urgent. We're detecting a large fleet approaching from the Zentari border. At least 50 ships, moving at maximum speed. Jake rushed to the bridge, where his crew was already at their stations. The main view screen showed a massive fleet of alien warships, all of them bristling with weapons. Any communication from the fleet? Yes, sir. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Jake almost laughed. Our surrender? We're a mining ship. Captain, came a new voice from the communication system. It was harsh and commanding. clearly belonging to a military officer. "This is Admiral Zektar of the Zentari Imperial Fleet. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." "Admiral," Jake replied, "this is a civilian mining vessel. We're not at war with anyone. Your deception ends now, human. We know what your ship really is. The Zentari Empire will not allow such weapons to exist." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was ready, but 50 ships was a lot, even for the HMS Endeavour. Then he smiled. The aliens still didn't understand what they were really facing. "Amy, send a message on the emergency frequency." "Code 7. Dr. Parker's fingers flew over her console. "Message sent, Captain." "What was that?" Admiral Zektar demanded over the com. "A distress call," Jake replied honestly. "Standard procedure for civilian vessels under attack." The Zentari fleet began to move closer, their weapons charging. Jake could see the alien ships spreading out, trying to surround the HMS Endeavour. It was a good tactical move, the kind that would work against any normal vessel. "Admiral," Jake said, opening the channel again, "I'm going to give you one chance to withdraw. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was allowing your species to build this monstrosity. Prepare to be destroyed." The first Zentari ships opened fire, their energy weapons striking the HMS Endeavour shields. The blasts were powerful enough to destroy a normal ship, but they barely registered on the converted supercarrier's defensive systems. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The HMS Endeavour's hidden weapons emerged from their concealed positions. Mining. Lasers that could cut through moons focused their energy on the attacking ships. The results were immediate and devastating. 3 Zentari vessels simply vanished, turned to vapor by weapons they couldn't even understand. Impossible. Admiral Zektar screamed over the comm, but Jake was no longer listening to the aliens. He was watching his tactical display, where new. Contacts were appearing at the edge of the system. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace, responding to his distress call. The HMS Darwin appeared first, its sleek hull gleaming in the starlight. It looked like a research vessel, but Jake knew. It carried enough firepower to level a planet. The HMS Newton followed, appearing to be a simple cargo hauler, but actually mounting weapons that could punch through any known armor. One by one, the other converted ships arrived. The HMS Curie, disguised as a passenger liner. The HMS Tesla, masquerading as a communications relay ship. Each one looked innocent and harmless. Together, they represented the most powerful fleet ever assembled. "Admiral Zektar," Jake said, reopening the communication channel, "I'd like you to meet the rest of the human mining consortium." The Zentari fleet was now surrounded by what appeared to be 7 civilian vessels, but Jake could see the confusion on the alien ships' tactical displays. Their sensors were detecting energy signatures that didn't match any known civilian technology. "This is impossible," Admiral Zektar whispered. "These are civilian ships." "Yes, they are," Jake replied. "And this is what human civilian ships are. Capable of—" The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zentari fleet fought bravely, using every tactic they knew. But they were fighting technology that was decades ahead of their own, operated by crews who had been training for this moment for months. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing with surgical precision. They didn't try to destroy every Zentari vessel. Instead, they systematically disabled the alien ships, leaving them helpless but alive. "Enough," Admiral Zektar finally called out. "We surrender." Jake smiled. "Admiral, you attacked civilian vessels conducting lawful mining operations. That's piracy under galactic law. You're going to arrest us? Of course. What did you think would happen?" As the human ships began boarding the disabled Zentari vessels, Jake opened a new communication channel. This one reached every inhabited system in the galaxy. "This is Captain Morrison of the HMS Endeavour," he said. "Today, a Centauri military fleet attacked civilian human vessels without provocation. We defended ourselves as allowed under galactic law. We have taken the attacking vessels into custody and will be turning them over to the appropriate authorities." He paused, knowing that every species in the galaxy was listening. "Let me be clear about something. Humanity has no desire for conquest or domination. We want to be peaceful members of the galactic community, but we will not be bullied, threatened, or attacked. Any species that chooses to treat us as enemies will discover that humans are very good at protecting themselves." The message ended, but Jake knew its impact would be felt for years to come. The galaxy had just learned that humanity was not the weak, primitive species they had thought. Humans had built something incredible, something that changed the rules of the game. Over the following months, the political landscape of the galaxy shifted dramatically. The moderate Centauri faction took control of their government and reached out to humanity for diplomatic talks. The Kelvon Federation quietly abandoned their plans for military action. Smaller species that had been considering aggression suddenly became very interested in trade agreements. And through it all, the human fleet continued its work, mining asteroids, conducting research, exploring new regions of space. To anyone watching, they were simply civilian vessels going about their business. But Jake Morrison knew the truth. Humanity had not just survived their first test as a galactic power. They had passed it so completely that the rest of the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The aliens had wanted to disarm humanity's greatest weapon. Instead, they had motivated humans to build something even better. And now, the galaxy would never underestimate the species that had turned a supercarrier into something beyond the